Joining us now for more on this is Democratic Congressman and ranking member of the House Armed Services Committee, Adam Smith. Congressman, the reveal of these jets, including one with reported stealth capability, wasn't really very stealthy. It was in broad daylight, clearly visible to onlookers. What message is China trying to send, and does it have anything to do, you think, with the stalled initiative for the U.S.'s own sixth-generation fighters?
Well, I think there's a couple things here. First of all, we are undeniably in a competition with China and Russia, over being able to meet our defense capabilities and deter each other. There's no doubt about that. Also, technology is rapidly evolving. I mean, this is one of the big priorities for those of us on the House Armed Services Committee is to get our Pentagon to be able to develop, acquire, procure advanced technologies more quickly. Pentagon moves very slowly, but this is going to be a very difficult fight because technology is moving so rapidly. New technologies are coming on the field. How do they apply to the battlefield? This is going to be a challenge. But the other point that I want to make is it also points up why it'd be better if we could figure out some way to peacefully coexist with China going forward, understanding all of the challenges there. We don't need another Cold War, another arms race, much less stumbling into a global conflict between the two largest superpowers. We need to figure out how to peacefully coexist going forward.
I also want to ask you what you make of the timing of this kind of debut of these jets. You know, Elon Musk criticized the F-35 program pretty recently, calling Lockheed Martin, quote, idiots. Instead, Musk said the U.S. should beef up the U.S. drone supply. Do you think this revelation by China, is going to push the Air Force in one direction or the other? As you just mentioned, the Pentagon moves kind of slowly and usually on its own pace. Is it going to have any impact at all?
Well, I don't think this jet does. I'll tell you what has the impact is the war in Ukraine and what we've seen and the impact of drones, the impact of secure communications or the lack of secure communications, the ability to jam missiles and drones and other things, the necessity of speeding up our ability to develop those technologies. I always say it's secure communications, information, drones, counter drones, missile defense. So I think Elon Musk, in his own unique fashion, is making a legitimate point. What is the future? Are we going to have manned aircraft? Should we spend tens of billions of dollars on another manned aircraft that might not be able to survive? I mean, Russia has a vastly better air force than Ukraine. They have not been able to achieve air superiority in Ukraine just because Ukraine knows how to shoot them down. So I think thinking about the future is really important.
Yeah, it's been one of the big surprises about that battle is as how important artillery shells have been given all this technology. They're still vital. Really quick, I want to get your reaction to news this morning that Russian President Putin apologized, sort of. I mean, he apologized to both the presidents of Azerbaijan and Kazakhstan for this plane being downed on Christmas Day, but he stopped short of saying Russia was responsible. He just kind of said he was sorry that it happened. Were you surprised by that statement at all? And, do you think at the conclusion of this investigation, which open intelligence sources are saying it seems pretty obvious it was hit by something, do you expect Russia to take responsibility?
I do not, and I was a little bit surprised. Russia normally just ignores this. They shot down, I think it was a Malaysian plane, never admitted to it. So I'm surprised that they acknowledged it at all. But look, this points up two things. One, Russian incompetence when it comes to their military, and two, just how dangerous it is that this war continues in Ukraine. We need to help Ukraine be able to defend itself, deter Putin, and stop the war.
I also want to ask you, I was recently in Europe at the G7 with European leaders and Secretary Blinken, and European leaders were already a little bit nervous about just the unpredictability of Trump's foreign policy the last time around and, the whiplash of trying to react constantly to surprise announcements, surprise tweets at the time. Now they'll be on X or Truth Social. But, then we had these posts from the president-elect floating the idea of buying Greenland, maybe retaking the Panama Canal. What do you make of these announcements by President-elect Trump, and how do you think it's going to impact America's relationship with our allies?
I think it's going to impact it poorly, first of all. I think, second of all, this is Trump's foreign policy. It was Trump's foreign policy during his first term, and it's what he promised during his campaign this time. He's a bully. And he's going to punch, and he's going to punch and see how people react, and he's going to punch in all directions. All right. I mean, does he really plan on, I don't know, using the U.S. military to retake the Panama Canal? Probably not. But he wants to bully Panama maybe into giving us a better deal. He thinks maybe he can bully the Netherlands into giving us Greenland. But he's simply going to lash out. It's the way he conducts business and always has been. He's aggressive, he's mean, he's nasty, he goes after everybody and tries to intimidate and bully them. And it's dangerous. I mean, I'll admit, occasionally it accidentally works, but it's also really dangerous and divisive. And I like the comments in your previous segment about, he's a divider. It's who he's always been. It's how he approaches things. And I think we can expect more of this, and it's worth being worried about.
Unpredictability of Trump. I remember talking to some NATO allies who were saying, look, they didn't know if Trump would stay in NATO, and it did push Europeans to step up. It did make European security because they couldn't rely on the U.S. anymore. It might actually have been a good thing. Is there some opportunity in chaos, or do you think the net overall it's a net loss?
Well, yes and yes. There is some opportunity in chaos, and yes, the net overall is a loss. But let's also get a little bit clearer on this whole NATO thing. NATO stepped up when Russia invaded Ukraine. It's a little bit of a myth that Trump's bullying tactics is what forced NATO to spend more money. What really got them focused was when they understood the threat of Russia. But yeah, sure. I mean, look, being aggressive, being unpredictable can sometimes keep your adversaries off balance, and you can sometimes sort of, stumble into a good result. But it is also extremely risky, as we have discussed.
All right. Representative Adam Smith, thank you. So nice to see you. Thanks for joining us.